Nitya Krishna Om Vishnu Paras Tatra Sata Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayana Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Krishna Om Vishnu Paras Tatra Sata Srila Bhakti Vedanta Vamana Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Krishna Om Vishnu Paras Tatra Srila Bhakti Vedanta Chirakram Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Krishna Om Vishnu Paras Tatra Sata Srila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Krishna Om Vishnu Paras Tatra Sata Srila Bhakti Vedanta Keshav Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Krishna Om Vishnu Paras Tatra Sata Srila Bhakti Rakshak Shiraga Swami Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Krishna Om Vishnu Paras Tatra Sata Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitya Krishna Param Bhagavad Paras Srila Gorka Shradas Bhaj Maharaj Ki Jai. Nitya Krishna Sachinand Bhakti Vinod Thakur Ki Jai. Nitya Krishna Vaishnav Sarva Srila Jagannath Das Maharaj Ki Jai. Shri Gauri Vedanta Chashibada Vidarusan Prabhu Ki Jai. Shri Krishna Chakravarti Thakur Ki Jai. Nartan Shamananda Rupa Ki Jai. Krishnas Kaviraj Goswami Ki Jai. Shri Rup Sanatana Bhakti Raghunath Shri Jeev Kopalavata Dasana Shagya Sangha Ki Jai. Shri Surup Damdara Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parasat Venkata Ki Jai. Namaskar Shri Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Sadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Antadvip Mayapur Samadhidip Gaudadip Chanadip Madhurmadip Pradip Padma Krishnavati Dham Ki Jai.
You're missing about 4 of them.
I know.
Okay, go ahead.
Oh no, I lost it.
Navadip Dham Ki Jai. And what? Vrindavan, Jagannath Puri, what? Okay, you can say it again.
Shri Antadip
Mayapur.
Shri Mayapur Samadhidip Gaudadip Gaudadip Madhurmadip Pradip Padma Krishnavati Dham Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopi Gauranga Dwara Samanath Shri Raj Mandal Ki Jai.
Jai.
Radha Kun Shyam Kun Gangajamana Tosi Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Shri Radha Devi Ki Jai. Shri Purnamasi Jog Mai Ki Jai. Gopi Shwar Mahadev Ki Jai. Shri Jagannath Bharat Sudhar Sudarshan Chakra Jai. Sachamando Ki Jai. Shri Nishimadev Bhagavan Ki Jai. Bhakta Bhar Shri Prahlad Maharaj Ki Jai. Charidam Ki Jai. Chari Sampadai Ki Jai. Chari Acharya Ki Jai. Adhak Shri Chaitanya Mat Ki Jai. Shri Shri Kesab Ji Gaudiya Mat Ki Jai. Raj Mad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Hari Om Sankirtan Ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinde Ki Jai. Samgata Gaur Bhakta Vrinde Ki Jai. Shri Nitai Gaur
Hari Hari Bol. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Judaha Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamstra Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Bande Shri Gurun Dinataranam Vancha Kalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Yaevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauda Chisena Nityanandam Namastubhyam Premananda Pradayane Kalo Karma Shanashaya Janava Pataye Namaha Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhakta Rupa Swarupakam Bhaktavataram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayatam Suruto Pangor Mama Manda Mater Gati Mat Sarvasva Padam Bojo Radha Madana Mohano Divyad Vrindaranya Kalpadrumadha Srimad Ratnagar Singhasanasto Srimad Radha Srila Govinda Devo Prishtalibhi Sevyamano Smarani Srimad Rasarasarambi Vamshivata Tatakstitaha Karsanavenu Swanair Gopir Gopinata Shristunaha Brindai Tulsi Devai Priyai Keshavasya Krishna Bhakti Prade Devi Satyavachai Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. First of all, I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Gurudev, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad, Paramahansa Asto Tarashata, Sri Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Swami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada. And then I'm offering my same unlimited Dandavat Pranams and my Shraddha Pushpanjali at the lotus feet of my most worshipable beloved Siksha Gurudevs, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa, Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sri Dhar Goswami Maharaj, and Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Asto Tarasata Sri Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I'm offering my unlimited Dandavat Pranams to the lotus feet of all of my Sri Sri Rupa Nuga Guru Varga, and my Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and all the Vaishnavas. So, we were reading the second lecture, the second chapter of this book, which is titled The Secret Truths of the Bhagavatam. And the title of the second chapter is that Srimad Bhagavatam does not cheat. So this is based upon the verse 2, number 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is describing how in the Srimad Bhagavatam there is no Kaitava Dharma. Kaitava, word Kaitava means cheating. So we went through Gurudev's very beautiful explanation of that. I'm trying to find where we left off. Yeah. And then we began to read the verse, which is the third invocation. Do you know how many verses there are? Invocation verses at the very beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam? 3. There are 3. Those 3 verses are the prelude. They're the invocation. And in those 3 verses, Srila Vyasadeva is describing what is the subject matter of the Srimad Bhagavatam in those 3 verses. Who and what kind of devotees, what kind of persons will relish and taste the nectar of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And in this verse, the 3rd verse, it's quite a very sweet and poetic verse. Even the sound of the Sanskrit is very pleasing. I'm reading that verse. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shukamukhadam ritadrava samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasamalayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. So you can repeat after me. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shuka mukhad amrita drava samyutam pibata bhagavatam rasam alayam muhur aho rasika bhuvi bhavukaha. Translation: O expert and thoughtful men, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desire tree of Vedic literature. It emanated from the lips of Sri Shukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarine juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. So, now Gurudev is going to break this down. He's telling, what is the Nigama Kalpa Taror? So say this again, Nigama Kalpa Taror. Nigama means the Vedic literatures. Nigama represents all the Vedic literatures. And the Vedic literatures are being described as being a kalpa taru. Taru means tree, and kalpa means desire tree. So the desire tree of all the Vedic literatures. Okay? Nigama kalpa taror, and then galitam phalam. Phala means fruit, and galitam means ripened. So, Vyasadeva is stating that the ripened fruit of the tree of all Vedic literature, which has emanated from the mouth of Shukadeva Goswami. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shuka mukhad. Shuka means Shukadeva Goswami, and shuka also means parrot. So shuka mukhad means from the mouth of the parrot, the personality named Shukadeva. Because who is Shukadeva? There's a whole pastime. Oh, actually, Shukadeva Goswami is the parrot, the pet parrot of Radha and Krishna, and witnessed all the pastimes. So there's a whole story Gurudev will tell how they instructed that you will have to remain behind. We are now going back to the spiritual world. You will have to remain behind. So the person who spoke the Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami, is actually the parrot of Radha and Krishna in Nitya Lila. So that Shukadeva also was given this name, Shuka, which means parrot. Shuka and Sari means male and female parrot. Okay, so Shuka Mukad, this has emanated from the mouth of Shukadev. Amrita Drava Samyuta. You know what the word Amrita means? Yes, Amrita. And it also means immortal. Amrita Drava Samyutam. It is very sweet nectarine juice. Nectarine juice. Amrita Drava Samyutam. It is nothing but nectar juice, this Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, one thing about Shuka Mukad, meaning the mouth of Shukadev Goswami, is that there is a known fact that parrots have a capacity in their beak. There is something with the beak of a parrot that when it bites on a fruit that's still on the tree, right, and it bites into it with its beak, it makes that fruit more sweet. There's some kind of chemical thing, it's an actual fact. You never heard that before? Yes? Yeah. Yes, and you'll hear that's why Vyasadeva is using this comparison, that the tree of the ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic literature, which emanated from the mouth of Shukadev Goswami, because the ripened fruit is what? Srimad Bhagavatam. He's describing Srimad Bhagavatam. Amrita Drava Samyutam. From the mouth of Shukadev Goswami, it has become nectarine relishable juice. Okay? So then, he says, Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam. Repeat. Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam. Pibata Bhagavatam Rasam Alayam. Yes, so this means drink. Pibata means drink. See? Srila Vyasadeva is giving this command. All of you, drink this amrita, this nectar, which is rasam alayam, completely full of rasa. Then the last line of the verse, he's saying, Muhur aho. Say that. Muhur aho. You know what aho means? No, that's a lamenting. Aho means oh. Oh. Aho. You see? Muhur aho. And here the word muhur means again and again. Vyasadeva is not saying just drink it one time. No. He's saying constantly drink this. Muhur aho. Muhur aho. Ras. Now he's telling who should drink it. Who is the personalities that should drink this nectar? And he names two. Muhuraho, Rasika, Bhuvi, Bhavuka. Gurudev always brought this up. He said, who is the Srimad Bhagavatam meant for? Rasik and Bhavuk Bhaktas. Rasik. This is not an ordinary personality. This is a fully realized personality. Rasika. You cannot call anyone a Rasika unless they have the qualification to enter into the realm of rasa and actually taste bhakti rasa. You see? So, Srila Vyasadeva is telling that you Rasik Vaishnavas and you Bhavuk Bhaktas. Bhavuk means bhav. Sometimes bhav is translated as emotions, right? But bhav means that stage in which they are overwhelmed with ecstatic moods of love for Krishna. They're called bhavuk. So say this. Rasikai bhuvi bhavuka. Rasikai bhuvi bhavuka. Yes. Sorry, not rasikai, rasika. Rasika bhuvi bhavuka. So now you repeat. Nigamakalpa taror. Galitam phalam. Shukamukad. Amrita. Dravasamyutam. Pibata bhagavatam. Rasam alayam. Muhuraho. Rasika. Bhuvi. Bhavuka. We have someone, I think, in the kitchen named Rasika. So, O expert and thoughtful men, repeat after me.
O expert and thoughtful men,
relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literature. It emanated from the lips of Shukadev Goswami. And therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful, although its nectarine juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. So now here, Gurudev is telling, Nigama Kalpataror means that all the Vedas, Upanishads, Shrutis, Mahabharata, and Ramayana, they combined together. When they are combined together, they are like a transcendental desire tree, Kalpataru. On that tree, Srimad Bhagavatam is the sweetest fruit of all. If you suck the leaves or the branches, if you suck the root of a tree, you will find there is no sweet taste. If you suck the root of a tree, you will find there is no sweet taste. Right? If you suck the leaves or the branches also, you will get no sweetness. Even if you suck on the tree's raw green fruits, still no sweetness will be there. Only when the fruit has matured or fully ripened and been bitten by some cuckoo birds or parrots who have been attracted by its fragrance, will it be so very tasteful. So you understand now? You see? So all the Vedas and the Upanishads are like these other parts of the tree. Okay? You can serve those Shastras, you can hear them, and you can follow them, but you will find no sweetness. In all the Puranas, there is no such sweetness, not even in Ramayana and Mahabharata. Comparatively speaking, you understand? He's talking comparatively speaking, right? Compared to the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, furthermore, even if you read Srimad Bhagavatam on your own, you will not experience any sweetness. Why? That is the question. Because the parrots and the cuckoo birds have not touched it. There is a substance in the mouth of parrots, on their beaks, when injected into a fruit, makes the fruit more tasteful. That is why it is said, Jaha Bhagavata Para Vaishnavya. You ever heard that before? Can you say it?
I don't know the meaning, but I've heard that.
Okay. Repeat after me. Jaha Bhagavata Para. Jaha Bhagavata Para. Vaishnavya Stane. So, this was spoken in the Anjalila of Chaitanya Charitamrita by who? Swami Goswami. Mahaprabhu also spoke this. So what is Mahaprabhu telling? He's telling Jaha Bhagavat Para. That means if you want to study the Bhagavat, Srimad Bhagavat, Para means to study. P-A-D with a dot under it, A. P-A-D-A. Para. Para. If you want to understand Srimad Bhagavat, that you can do it on your own. Some people say that. There is a section of devotees who say, Prabhupada put everything in his books, and he's the Mahabhagavat, and therefore we read him, and we read the Bhagavatam and his purports, and that's enough. We'll get everything. So is that true? Huh? Is it true?
I mean, at least in the general description, you're saying that Srila Prabhupada has touched books. If Maharaj, you're A.C. Bhaktivinoda Swami Srila Prabhupada disciple, so he was there, you were there with him, he was your guru, he gave you everything, but I don't necessarily think it's implying that you don't take on Siksha from that point on, but technically, according to the analogy, it's been touched by the fair Srila Prabhupada, right? That's the analogy you're
No. No, because, look, you can read Bhagavatam, and of course we should. We do, and we should. And you can also read all the different commentaries. That is very, very good, very, very helpful. But if you don't go personally to hear from the lips of a realized Vaishnava, he said, Vaishnavera means where the Vaishnava is. Vaishnavera means where the Vaishnava is, not where the Vaishnava's book is. That's not what Mahaprabhu is saying. Because this is in a section of the Chaitanya Charitamrita where one person came forward and he was trying to present his understanding in writing. And Srila Damodar Goswami always, what's it called? He would screen them before. He would never allow anything to be presented to Mahaprabhu that would not have proper Siddhanta and everything. Because many people would come, they have written this or written that, So, in response, this is what Mahaprabhu told, Jaha Bhagavata Para. If you want to read and understand the Srimad Bhagavatam, you must approach a self-realized Vaishnava and hear from him. So, this is not referring to just reading his books. No. If that was true, that's a different story. That's a different story. What's the instruction? The instruction is to go to a Vaishnava and associate with them and hear from them. Let me tell you my own experience. As you said, I'm a Prabhupada disciple. I've heard hundreds and hundreds of Prabhupada's lectures, particularly his recorded, but in person, many, many lectures I heard directly from the lips of Srila Prabhupada. And it is very, very powerful. That's why we have a Hare Krishna movement, because of Prabhupada, okay? So, but who did Prabhupada hear from? Did he not hear from someone? Who?
And also Siksha Gurus like Bhakti.
Absolutely, he heard from Srila Sridhar Maharaj and discussed many topics from him. Also Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Maharaj. Also many others. Okay, Prabhupada had many very intimate godbrothers who were very, very exalted Mahabhagavat Vaishnavas. So, the main point is Srimad Bhagavatam must be heard from the lips of pure, realized Vaishnavas. Now, in the list of 64 angas, limbs of bhakti, right? In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, in Nectar of Emotion. It says there, Rupa Goswami is writing, Srimad Bhagavatam Asvado Rasikai Saha. Srimad Bhagavatartanam means the meaning, the artha, the deep understanding of Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatartanam. Asvado means to taste. Rasikai Saha. Must taste in the association of Rasika Vaishnavas. Asvado means to taste. So, this is a standard principle. There are two types of Bhagavat. What are the two types of Bhagavat? Does it mean that the book is there so you don't need to go to the person Bhagavat? Or you've gone to the person Bhagavat and you don't need to read the book Bhagavat? No, there are two types. You have to have both. When we read that verse where it's telling Nityam Bhagavata Seva, right? How does that begin again? Bhagavati Uttam Shloki Bhakti or Bhavati Naishtiki. Forget me the first one. See, that's what happens with old age. So, what? No. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. It means, no, Nityam means constantly, regularly and constantly. Prabhupada translated this by regular attendance in the Bhagavad class and by rendering service to the pure devotee. All that is inauspicious within the heart becomes destroyed almost to nil. And thus, unalloyed devotion to the Supreme Lord becomes an irrevocable fact. Nashtak prayeshu avadreshu. That's the first line. Nashtak prayeshu avadreshu. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya. Means constantly serving the two types of Bhagavats. So, you can ask any Prabhupada disciple. We all associated with Srila Prabhupada, some more, some less, in person, right? But we all have this experience, those of us who are in this Sangha, of a lot of us have the experience of after Prabhupada's departure, sitting at the lotus feet of Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj in particular, and hearing from him and hearing hundreds and thousands of hours of his Harikatha, recorded Harikatha, and also meeting with him a number of times. And it was a revolutionary experience because this enhances a devotee's understanding. What he's already received from the Guru, especially in the neophyte stage, by associating with another pure Vaishnava as a Siksha Guru, your understanding is deepened like anything that you could never achieve by your own reading of the texts and of the books. This also applies not just to hearing from the highest category of Uttam Mahabhagavats, but it also applies to hearing from very experienced, very senior, and somewhat advanced Vaishnavas. This will always be beneficial because sadhu sangha, sarva shastre koi, lava matra sadhu sangha, sarva siddhi hoy. That verse. Mahaprabhu spoke this verse to Sanatana Goswami. You heard that before? Repeating 3 times. Sadhu sangha, sarva shastre koi. He says, all of the Vedic literatures, all of the Shastras, they're sarva shastre koi. Koi means they are calling out. They are loudly calling out. Sadhu sangha. Associate with sadhus. Sarva shastre koi. All the Shastras are giving this message. Then, lava matra, sadhu sangha. Even if your association is very brief, very, very momentary. The word lava actually means something like 1/14 of a second. There's an actual time measurement in the Vedas, lava, right? Lava matra means even by a moment association with such a pure Vaishnava, sarva siddhi hoy. All perfection can come from this. So if we ever underrate, underestimate, underemphasize, or neglect the association of exalted sadhus, we will be unsuccessful. Doesn't matter how many rounds you chant, doesn't matter how many regulated principles you follow, it doesn't matter how many times you go out on book distribution. If somebody neglects, knowingly, intentionally, or being misled by others, right? And they neglect the association of such exalted pure Vaishnavas who are placed in this world by Krishna for the conditioned souls to receive their mercy and come onto this pathway. So you will be unsuccessful. And you will accrue aparad, offenses, and that will damage your efforts. So, yes. So,
Maharaj,
yeah.
quick, not to interrupt too long, but
And then I want to say, not only did I have one Siksha Guru, then I had another one. Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj. And believe me, I did not know his level. I saw him when Prabhupada was placed in Samadhi. I had his darshan. Then 10 years later, 11 years later, I personally met him and did some seva. And I was always attracted to him. But until I started hearing from him in person, then it became very clear to me, you see. So you must hear from exalted, realized personalities. Because pure devotees, they're not easily recognizable all the time. You know? They're not so easily recognized. Just like the book that you researched, The Life of Srila Kinchana Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj. He was just wandering here and there. Who would be able to recognize him on some train or this place or that place? But those who were exalted Vaishnavas, they understood what's his level, you see. So my experience, you can ask any Prabhupada disciple in this sangha, any one of them, how there was such a radical, beneficial shift in their spiritual life as soon as they came in the association of Srila Narayan, you know. And what I'm telling, it also applies for right now, although he's physically gone, although all my 3 gurus are physically gone. Because of that combined association and the deepening of different conceptions and hearing hundreds and thousands of hours from them, trying to serve them also. Therefore, when I read anything from either of them and even many other Vaishnavas, it is such a powerful experience. You see. So
that was going to be kind of what my
Yeah.
question was
Yeah.
that, so in the most ideal situation, which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Srila are talking about, being in the association of a Mahabhagavat and hearing Bhagavatam directly from their lips is the only way, right? It's not the only way, it's the most, to attain the fruit, right? So that's what the analogy is saying. So, and I know I was talking about the non-ideal situation is what you take what you have, you read the book Bhagavat in the scenario where you don't have that association. But I guess my next part of my question is going to be then, according to your level of sincerity and according to your level of endeavor in bhakti, Krishna will arrange that you're given opportunity to serve Mahabhagavats and be in their association and hear Bhagavatam, and that will denote like what your advancement will be. Because if you're not getting that association, that means in your regular practice when they're not there, something's lasting when something's not, right? Because, and my other question would be, are you getting any fruit at all, or is it degree of gradation that you're getting when you're not directly hearing from the words?
Okay, very good question. Very good question. And it's a combination of a number of questions, actually. You know, there's an article.
Can you summarize the question?
What?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Oh, why don't you give the mic?
We didn't hear in the kitchen, but
All right, go
we heard
ahead.
it was a good question, so.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know.
Maybe I don't know, short.
Just do it spontaneously.
Hare Krishna. My question is that Maharaj was mentioning that the discussions between Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Sri Damodar, and that how you must hear from a Mahabhagavat's lips directly to fully taste the fruit of the Bhagavatam. So in that regards, I'm wondering that I had mentioned earlier, in the absence of a Vaishnava being present, you know, we would obviously take shelter of the book Bhagavat, but in terms of you know, if you're just reading from the book Bhagavat because that's all you have, or there's no personality of that caliber around. So I did better the first time, but
Okay, so here's the thing. Now, there's a very beautiful article you can all read, written by Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj in the Rays of the Harmonist magazines. You can see it online. It's called Shastriya Sadhu Sangha. You ever heard that term before?
I don't know that.
Yeah, Shastriya Sadhu Sangha. So what this means is that this is definitely in the category of Sadhu Sangha, the books that have been written by the Acharyas. Okay? It's not that there's no potency there or whatever. No, far from that. Shastriya Sadhu Sangha is a type of Sadhu Sangha. And anyone who associates with the literatures with sincerity of heart, reading and praying, and even with tears in the eyes, please manifest, oh Rupa Goswami, oh Sanatana Goswami, oh Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. That's why they write the books, for the conditioned souls to take shelter of and to get samskaras. Okay, so these impressions, these samskaras, they are attainable through reading the literatures of the Goswamis and so forth. Okay, now there's a caveat that has to be given to this, because I brought this up before. You cannot exclude the direct association of the pure Vaishnavas that is required in order to get the necessary deep samskaras. And I want to make one point about this. How do you get those samskaras? Is it only by hearing? Is it only by reading the books? No. It's as Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, Tadvidhi pranipati, pariprashnena sevaya. Three things. Pranipat means surrender. Pariprashna means sincere inquiry. That also means hearing and reading the books and so forth. Pariprashna and seva. So one has to not only just come and go and hear from the Vaishnava. I mean, I can give examples of persons who did that in a certain institution from very exalted personalities. And then later on, they didn't get the impressions. They might have gotten some impressions, but then they also had a very unacceptable attitude towards those great personalities. Okay, I don't want to mention any names. So there has to be a mood of submission. That's why Srila Prabhupada mentions this in his first volume, Srimad Bhagavatam, this term, many times, submissive oral reception. Have you heard that before? Everyone repeat, submissive oral reception. Submissive oral reception. So, that submissive oral reception is encapsulated in the three instructions that Krishna gives to Arjuna. Tadvidhi pranipatina. This is the verse where Krishna is explaining that you must approach a tattvadarshi. To understand this knowledge, Arjuna, you must approach a tattvadarshi. What is a tattvadarshi, you know? Tattva means, and darshi? Yes. So tattva means truth, absolute truth. Tattva. And a darshi means one who sees. That means a self-realized soul. They see the truth. They don't just theorize about it. They see and experience the truth. So Krishna is telling Arjuna that in order to understand this truth, what Krishna is talking about, tadvidhi, to understand this knowledge, then you must approach a tattvadarshi. Tadvidhi pranipatena, and you have to do three things when you approach that tattvadarshi. Pranipat. First thing is pranipat. That means surrender. Pranipat. Your pran, nipat. You're surrendering your very pran at his feet with great reverence, with great respect, with great adoration. That's called submissive oral reception. Without that, you'll not get all the samskars. Without that, you cannot get what he's going to give. Now I'm explaining this verse so that you carefully understand how much this is absolutely required. So, tadvidhi pranipatina. First thing, surrender. Second one, pariprashna. Pariprashnena. Prashna. The word prashna means questions. Pariprashna means to ask questions, relevant questions. And it also means having a inquiring mood when you're hearing from him, right? You must have that inquiring mood when you're hearing from him with great awe and reverence. That's called pariprashna. And sometimes asking for clarification like this. And the third thing, indispensable, sevaya, service. Without service, the exchange cannot take place. These three things must be done by any person who comes to the feet of a self-realized soul in order for them to receive what the self-realized soul wants to give to you. So Krishna completes the verse by saying, Upadekshanti te jnanam. That means he will instruct you in that knowledge. If you approach him in this way, he will instruct you in that knowledge. Upadeksha means to give instruction. Upadekshanti te jnanam, in that jnana, in that knowledge. And then he says, jnaninas tattvadarshinaha, because he has realized that truth. He is a seer of that truth. Okay? So this is the eternal principle of any conditioned soul that wants to attain knowledge of the absolute truth, to attain spiritual perfection, to advance to the stage of all the higher stages of pure devotion, and ultimately bhav and prem. This is indispensable. Indispensable. So, one thing I want to say, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, he told so many things. You read this book, Sri Guru and His Grace. Everyone has to read this book thoroughly. And he's explaining there the principle of Guru. Okay? He's telling there that in the beginning stages of a discipleship, in the beginning stages, a disciple, he's able to recognize his own Guru. He can place his faith in a particular Vaishnava and accept him as Guru and become a disciple. In the neophyte stage, they have that capacity to recognize Sri Guru as a principle of Bhagavan. Okay? Now, that recognition is somewhat limited in the neophyte disciple to be able to recognize Sri Guru. And he may not see other gurus also in the same way. He may not be able to recognize, but his own guru, he feels that connection and can recognize. Okay? So Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, as one advances, the principle of Guru, which is called Guru Tattva, that principle expands. It expands. As the disciple progresses in knowledge, by practicing the process, following Sri Guru, completely surrendering, doing these things, his vision now begins to become more developed. Being able to perceive the principle of Guru also in other personalities, not just your own Guru, but other exalted, realized Vaishnavas. And now, in that stage, one can begin to embrace those personalities like he embraces his own Guru. There will still be some prominence of one's own Guru, but he will be able to recognize other personalities also, who he's receiving so much instruction from, so much transcendental knowledge from. And so in this way, the disciple is advancing, and he's receiving all this mercy from exalted personalities, right? And in his heart, he's also recognizing, oh Krishna, you're coming to me as Guru in this person also. And then Srila Sridhar Maharaj went on from there, and he says, ultimately, this principle of Guru will continue to expand, and in the highest stages, even when someone has attained, Swarup Siddhi within this world, right? And he's becoming acquainted with the transcendental world. He's becoming acquainted with his own spiritual identity and so forth. Srila Sridhar Maharaj explained, in a particular stage, then one will enter into the land of gurus, he calls it. The land of gurus. And what is the significance of that? That in the land of gurus, everyone is your guru. In the spiritual world, Srila Sridhar Maharaj said, there, even the dust particles, all the entities there, everyone is your guru. Why? Because they are inspiring you toward the service of Krishna in Krishna's pastimes. All are gurus. So he said, he put it in a kind of interesting way. He said, there, you cannot walk on your feet. In that realm, you cannot walk on your feet. You have to walk on your head. What does that mean? Walking on your head.
Because your head is always down.
It, figuratively speaking, the feet, if you walk on something sacred with your feet, it's like an offense. So in that realm, you have to walk on your head. Not that you'll actually physically do that, okay? But you have to walk on your head in the sense that everything is sacred. You're touching it to your head like that, not with your feet. You see? So the principle of Guru is the all-important principle for all devotees in all stages. And the point is made by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that even after one has attained the transcendental realm, right, and gone there, then he says, sadhu sangha becomes the most important principle there. Because now we're in the realm of the eternal associates of the Lord. And everything is sadhu sangha. And it's indispensable. Because in order for the devotees to develop from the stage of prem to the higher stages, prem, sneha, pranay, rag, anurag, bhav, mahabhav, like this, it is only through the association of those eternal associates that one can attain this. So the principle is being learned by the conditioned souls when they are fortunate and they have received the mercy of Guru and Krishna, and they come on the path of bhakti. That principle is based upon sadhu sangha. And that's why in the 5 principles given by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the 5 chief limbs are starting with sadhu sangha. Sadhu sangha, nam kirtan, bhagavat shravan, hearing Srimad Bhagavatam, Mathura Vasa, living in the sacred land of Mathura, or Navadvip, like that, Mathura Vasa, and Shri Murtir Shraddhaya Sevan, to serve the Shri Murti of the Lord with great faith, Shraddha, Shraddhaya Sevan. But first principle is sadhu sangha. And in that sadhu sangha, all the other 4 principles are there. But if one eliminates sadhu sangha, his advancement will stop. Prabhupada has written this all throughout his books. He's even saying in his books, there's a famous statement saying that even in the Madhyam Adhikari stage, a person must associate with more advanced Vaishnavas than oneself. Otherwise, one's progress stops. So, in this way, in answer to your question, I think I approach it from different angles, but we should take advantage of that sadhu sangha in every form that it comes to us. In the book form, right? In the picture form, in the pure devotee personally being there in that form. All of these different forms, we have to take advantage of sadhu sangha. So Srimad Bhagavatam has to be heard from the lips of pure devotees. If not in this life, you will have to hear it in the next one. Srila Gurudev said that if you're following properly and you're really trying to surrender, he said, you cannot imagine what arrangement Krishna will make for you in your next life, and so forth. And he will also enable you, he will equip you with the necessary samskaras to have the highest association. Highest. Gurudev was mentioning names like Bhakti Vinod Thakur, like Narottam Das Thakur, these personalities, okay? So we should know that our association with the Vaishnavas is everything. Everything will come from that. And that will lead us to the highest association. Because without that, how are you going to become an eternal associate of the Lord? You're just going to chant 16 rounds, follow 4 regular principles, and suddenly, poof, you're in Goloka Vrindavan? No. You have to develop through the stages. You have to go through the stages. Otherwise, why did Rupa Goswami explain the different stages from Shraddha all the way up to Prem? Why did Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur write Madhurya Kadambini, which tells you all the symptoms in each one of those stages in very, very great detail? So it's not possible to jump. You cannot jump up to the top of the tree. That's one example given. That you see this fruit on the top of the tree, you try to jump up. You cannot do that. From where you're standing, you have to climb the tree. You'll have to take the trouble to climb the tree. And then your hands can touch the fruit. So climbing the tree to get the fruit, it means that you are embracing this process, which is given by Mahaprabhu, given in his disciplic succession, and that gradually you're climbing in the stages of bhakti. So that fruit, which represents praying, this is using a different analogy than the one about the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the ripened fruit. But this example is given by Bhakti Vinod Thakur. But you cannot just simply jump. You have to climb the tree. So and it will take multiple lifetimes, not just one. So
those gradations that we're talking about is
Yeah.
very well explained by Madhurya from the meaning.
yes,
And that's, what you said about
use the mic.
what you were mentioning is very much explained in Madhurya kind of meaning. That's the gradation that I guess I was thinking or asking for in my question.
Mhm.
So that's, you answered that very nicely, Marge. And that's what, according to our sincerity, what will come, what Krishna will arrange will either be in this lifetime through either sadhu sangha that's higher than ours, and then we will reap the fruits according to our sincerity and to the level in which we, understand, whether it be from, this sadhu or that sadhu, and then from there Krishna will advance us through the process of Madhurya Kandini, basically how it's described.
Yes.
And we'll read more, whether it's in this lifetime or next lifetime. So
Yeah. Gurudev would
the
generally-
gradations of the fruit, though, is what I'm saying. And then
Yeah.
the most ripened fruit that you're saying is hearing directly from the lips of Mahabhagavad, purely realized Tattvadarshi. That's
Yes. That also requires some development.
in many years,
To
many
be able to
lifetimes
properly
come to
hear
that.
from them, also to be able to be qualified.
I was actually going to
Properly
ask that
hear
too, because
from
I was going to
them.
say I've seen,
Yeah.
not bring anybody down, but there's been so many people, and I don't really know what their qualification is. I don't know what Krishna has arranged for them in their next lifetime. But there's plenty of people who have seen and had this opportunity to just be by Mahabhagavata the whole time, just like hearing their Bhagavatam classes, and so that concept, at least from my very low perspective and my external vision, it may not seem that like they're grabbing the fruit, but they could be, or they may not be, but like they're still externally hearing Bhagavatam class from Mahabhagavata throughout their whole 30, 40 years, And then you're explaining it nicely, that you're saying that still to actually be able to truly hear is different than, you can sit there and be like, there's the example given of.
The thing is that you have to receive the mercy of that personality. You have to please that personality. That means you have to surrender. So those who are doing that proportionately, like Krishna says, yeyatamam prapadyante, proportionately to your surrender, then you will be given their mercy, and through that mercy, everything will come. All realizations and so forth will come. So, sure, there's many neophyte devotees who follow the pure devotee all over the world, to this country and that country, and even massage his body and all of this. But we see that many of them, they have not followed through in their spiritual practices, you see. So naturally they got some mercy. But the real mercy is not attained just by physical proximity, And Srila Gurudev one time told that, I'll end now, Srila Gurudev told, we were in Navadvip Dham, and we were still at Devananda Gaudiya Math, so it was around maybe 2003, I think it was. And we were having a meeting on top of this building that was built like a Gurukula there, by Gurudev's money. And Gurudev came up in the early evening, and he wanted to have a discussion, because he wanted to make a few more sannyasis at that time. So he told those of us who were already sannyasis that, and he was, all the devotees were there, a few hundred devotees, Western devotees. And Gurudev was saying, I want to make a few more sannyasis, because I want that they will travel everywhere, like my arms and legs. And then he said, but I want to hear from you. What is your opinion? And then he also mentioned a few candidates. There were 3 at that time, candidates that he mentioned. And at first Ashram Maharaj took the mic and he gave his view. And you know what he said to Gurudev? He says, Srila Gurudev, yes, of course. I mean, we all agreed. Gurudev, whatever you think, this is not a matter of our opinion, But then he said, but Gurudev, if you're going to be sending us out to preach so much here and there, can you at least give us, sannyasis, when we do meet with you, some very special, intimate association like this, right? So Gurudev answered, He says, I do not consider physical association to be real association. You see? So, Vani and Vapu. So this is the thing. But still there must be physical association and hearing directly. And the samskars will come. But it's not a matter of quantity of hearing directly. Okay? It is definitely a matter of how much one is surrendering and praying to them for their mercy and really becoming their true shishya, you know? Inner heart shishya, right? That the Gurudev, they've become so, Gurudev used to say, that the disciple serves Guru with such affection and love, and the Guru becomes completely worried even for their eating and sleeping. That's how he feels towards such intimate disciples that are in his heart, you know? So, like that association, serving them and serving their instruction is all important. But the thing is that a lot of the neophyte devotees, they kept on thinking that, oh, we will get so much more by being constantly with Gurudev, you know? So it became like a traveling roadshow year after year after year, you know? But who are the disciples who are really receiving the mercy are those who are really surrendering, you know?
Following instructions.
Yes, following the instructions. Okay. Gaur Premanande, Brantara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Vanshat Kripa Sindhu Guru Vacha Patitana Mahavani